With Christmas just a few days away, there's always plenty of speculation and anticipation about the chances that it might be snowy. It turns out that the notion of a white Christmas has interesting roots, at least partly in long-term changes in the climate. Now, here's a look at the results of a bunch of studies focusing on the Northern Hemisphere that have tried to reconstruct average temperatures going back about 1,000 years using various methods, such as tree rings. Now, there's certainly a lot of variation among the various studies, but if we sort of average all these lines, there's clearly a period starting in the 1500s when average temperatures were lower than today by a degree or two. Now, this cooler time is known as the Little Ice Age, and there's evidence that it was noticeable, especially in winter, in both Europe and America. For example, during that time in the Netherlands, canals frequently froze solid in the winter, while in the Swiss Alps, glaciers advanced and threatened villages. In England, winters were generally colder as well. In fact, there are accounts of the Thames River freezing over, something that never happens now, though that's only partly the result of changes in the climate. Closer to home, New York Harbor actually iced over during the winter of 1780, allowing people to walk from Manhattan to Staten Island. That winter was so harsh that the esteemed American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia sent out a request for weather observations to document the brutal cold. Now, the Little Ice Age ended in the early to middle 19th century, and it turns out that some of the most memorable Christmas stories were written around that time, when people had a colder and probably snowier impression of winter. For example, Clement Moore published "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" in New York in 1823, describing new fallen snow on Christmas Eve. This story is largely responsible for the modern American view of Santa Claus, including his method of transport and the number and names of his reindeer. About 20 years later, the classic "Over the River and Through the Wood" was written in Massachusetts to describe childhood memories of a Thanksgiving sleigh ride through the white and drifted snow. Around the same time, Charles Dickens wrote "A Christmas Carol," set in the bitter cold of London during the holidays, the miserly Scrooge forbidding his clerk to put more coal on the fire. And a century later, Irving Berlin's classic lyrics in the biggest pop hit of all time stirred up memories of a snowy past by dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. In Pennsylvania, the historical probability of a white Christmas, defined as at least 1 inch of snow on the ground on December 25th, varies from about 10% in Philadelphia to more than 70% in the higher elevations of the north and west. Stay tuned. Christmas Day will be part of our extended forecast coming up next.